What's going on, you guys? It's your boy 3 in this thing, baby, representing TKOG. I'm going to be showing you guys some more of the stuff that I've been creating. A lot of people ask me for SHADDOLL content. It's one of my favorite decks. It is severely power crept, and it really hasn't seen the light of day or had a chance to shine since 2020. So it's kind of been hard out here, bro. It's been a desert, but I did create cards that I really wish were real. I really wish that I just need to get a job there. They need to look into a lot of archetypes. This is what I feel the deck needs to have a competitive edge. These cards set the deck apart and allow it to actually compete, while it's still gonna be functionally not as powerful as like fire, and it's not gonna be as resilient as fire or like White Force or other of the top tier decks. It is a solid tier 2. It has a lot of reinforcements. It has like a lot of just like resiliency and recovery. And where this deck shines is that it is a mid-range deck that's able to simplify the game state with all the tools that it has. It's a toolbox deck, and it is able to get out of situations that a lot of decks can't. There's a euphemism, or actually there's like a reference that I like to use a lot. It's like a phrase. This deck can have its way in a lot of situations where it shouldn't have its way. And there's a few decks that are like that, and I enjoy when an archetype's able to do that. So I'm going to show you guys the custom cards that I made. I made 2 new fusions, 2 new spells, 1 new trap, and 1 new monster, main deck monster. These cards definitely put the deck over the top. It will actually be extremely consistent, and something that you really can't do as of right now. It's actually able to be played pure, and it has 2 card combos. And SHADDOLL's initially, if you don't have like Mathematician plus like a fusion, you don't really have a lot of 2 card combos in the first place. This deck's only 1 card combo is SHADDOLL fusion. So it has one card combo, or like a 1.5 card combo, and then another 1 card combo. And it has a lot of 2 card combos, and it's able to play through cards like Ashen Impermanence, low impact hand traps. So the resiliency is definitely there. I fine-tuned a lot of these cards to enable like the dynamic of the deck, which already is what SHADDOLLs were doing. Was it really doesn't set up boards. What it does is it sets up a way to play on the opponent's turn. It has a lot of enablers, and it basically can just pivot whatever direction it needs to, predicated to the matchup. So SHADDOLLs, that's why I say they have a toolbox, because they have a fusion that can pretty much combat every situation. Including Winda, which is not the only win condition of this deck, but this deck actually has a lot of like layered interruptions that are really hard to play through. It does not lose to like Dark Ruler, Droplet, Super Poly, like conventional board breakers, and it's really hard to hand trap with a new support. So with all that being said, let's get started with first. We're going to start off slow, steady. We'll start off with the new trap. If you guys didn't know, SHADDOLL Construct's actually Neph. She's a Nephilim. She's a fallen angel. If you guys have studied the lore, I know the entire Duelist Arsenal, the Duelist Alliance lore, and the Hidden Arsenal lore, which all tie into each other, and I followed Construct's like whole journey. I really love this deck a lot. So I named this card El SHADDOLL Neph Core. It's a continuous trap. It reads as follows. Once per turn, you can target 1 SHADDOLL card on your field or in your graveyard. Let me just check time. That's going to, so once per turn, target 1 SHADDOLL card on your field or in your graveyard, and 1 card on the field. Cost, return them both to the hand. So this is every turn going to be a compulse with follow-up. It has nifty tricks that we'll talk about in a second. The nuances will point them out. So its other effect is if this card sends to the graveyard by a card effect, add 1 SHADDOLL monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can only use this effect of Neph Core once per turn. So it is soft once per turn on the compulse effect, so you can get multiples up, and it can kind of snowball in that sense. And it can snowball because you can return your fusions from your graveyard to your extra deck, which is something that SHADDOLL's always struggled with extra deck resource management before Al Capone came out. And now it's a little bit better with like infinite loops with like Resh, Falco, and like Al Capone. But it's really hard to do that, like unless you're playing against Runics. You're really not going to have time to do that. But this deck definitely is able to resource manage its resources a lot better than it normally could. This deck's like one of its biggest downfalls has always been just running out of gas in the extra deck when like you're still able to play, but you just run out of fusions really quickly. especially when you're setting up construct loops to play under Droll and Lockbird. There's just like a lot of the utility in this card because of its resource management that it provides, but also it is just a solid interruption. It is a compulse. The other thing that's cool is like once this card is established, it will be able to play through targeting disruptions. Cards like Droplets, cards like Super Poly, it can even help to counterplay, not Super Poly, it can help to counterplay cards like Droplet and Dark Ruler. It helps to dodge like Impermanences and Mourners and Veilers and stuff like that because you can just target your Shaddol monster on field that's being targeted by an effect and bounce it to hand. So that's really nifty. It really helps you to push past and through interruptions. And on the crackback, this card is going to help you because if your opponent has hand traps left over, those face down impermanences, this card's just going to eat through them. It's really going to chew through a lot of like targeting disruptions while still being the follow-up that it provides, which is the most important, I think, the most important card effect in this card's design is that it's not just an interruption and it's not just going to be able to play through interruptions itself, which is a very, very like double-edged sword. A disruption that can also play through disruptions at the same time while also providing really strong follow-up on your opponent's turn and on your turn. It's really strong. The secret effect that makes this card kind of low-key broken is that you can target one of your Shaddol cards on your field and a Shaddol card in your graveyard and add them both to your hand. So, like, for example, you can target a Shaddol monster on your field and, like, a Shaddol spell or trap in your graveyard and bounce them both. So this also gives, like, crazy follow-up if it's not interacting with your opponent. So I think the card is actually phenomenal, really good as a one-of. It's recurable, which is nice, and it's a really good card. Nothing broken about it, but it just has enough nuance for it to find a home in the main deck. So next, we are going to talk about the new monster, which is Resh Shaddol Core. Its statistics are modeled after a Zephyr monster, which conveniently is a Shaddol monster and a rock. I reinvented a couple things. The artwork is just Shaddol artwork just so that the card can have like art. It's a rock flip effect monster. Its flip effect is as follows. Send one Shaddol monster from your extra deck to your graveyard. That's utility because you can dump Op Cologne, the new fusions, and the old ones. So it has like recovery or it can be a starter. Its graveyard effect is if this card sends the graveyard by a card effect, you can send one Shaddol spell or trap from your deck to your graveyard. So very similar to Squamata, but it can only send spells and traps, and that's actually really relevant with the new support. You're going to essentially just be like, that's a cool thing with like always being able to play under Droll. That should also have always had that strength, but you're essentially going to be dumping everything from your deck to your grave and adding it from your grave to your hand. That's how I always play Shaddolls. That's how I access my entire main deck, and I have the utility of dictating what I want when I need it and having control over when I get access to it. So this card's pretty nifty. It's nothing over the top, but it definitely has enough viable effects in my opinion. The best part about this card is it's a light attribute, so it definitely feels to me like a 3-of, similar to Squamata. It's like Squamata, but a little bit better because it's a light. Squamata still is going to have better utility because it sends any card. But Core can almost be just as good in Squamata in a lot of scenarios. So that's Core. Next, we are going to talk about the new Fusion card. I always felt like Shaddolls needed another Fusion spell. L and Shaddol Fusion are nice. Nefe's Shaddol Fusion is really not that good at all. I like this card a lot. It's called Resh Shaddol Fusion. It's a really solid card. It actually enables one-card combos. So you can fusion summon one Shaddol monster from your extra deck using materials from your hand and or field from your hand and or field and or by shuffling the materials listed on it from your graveyard to your deck. So it's Miracle Fusion or just a regular poly. But if you control a Shaddol card when activating this card, you can also send one Shaddol monster from your deck to your graveyard as one of the materials required for the fusion summon. So it's half of a Shaddol fusion and it can be a Miracle Fusion literally at the same time. So you can like pull back a construct and dump a core to resolve this card, which is huge for momentum. Not only for momentum, like, and for recovery, but for like the sheer amount of like chain blocking that this deck does. This card can just break boards by itself. So it's really, really strong. It's almost Shaddol Fusion, but it feels better than Shaddol Fusion, especially specifically going first. This is a better Shaddol Fusion for going first. It's not the full utility of SHADDOLL Fusion. SHADDOLL Fusion can literally dump any monsters from your deck to your grave because you could dump any light, any dark, any earth, as we already know. But it is SHADDOLL Fusion with a little bit more of a restrictive curve, being that you can only send a SHADDOLL monster from your deck to your grave as one of the materials. So it's not going to be Foolish Burial. I kept that in mind when designing it so that you couldn't just incorporate this into like other strategies. So that's how it's going to be fusion summoning. It can be a basic poly, a miracle fusion, or half of a SHADDOLL fusion. It's a really strong card. The other effect is, there's a layered, in addition to what it does for fusion summoning, the monsters summoned this way cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects. So this card, if it actually dumps from the deck to the graveyard for one of its materials, the monster that's summoned that way will not be able to be targeted by your opponent's card effects. And that's period, forever. So you can summon a construct that cannot be interacted with pretty much. You can summon an Ob Cologne that really cannot be interacted with. This card it's a momentum swing. This is like not the first card you're activating going second. This is a card that like can be the last card in hand and can literally put you all the way in the driver's seat. Its other effect is if this card's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add one SHADDOLL spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So this card is phenomenal. It's a miracle fusion. It's half of a SHADDOLL fusion. It can be a basic poly. If you use its effect to send from deck, which you have to control a SHADDOLL card to do, and I need to specify it's besides this card. So let's just change the text really fast. Let me see here. If you control another SHADDOLL card when activating this card, there we go, because that would just make no sense, because then it's just always going to be a SHADDOLL fusion there. So it gives protection to the monster it's summoned. I think this is the perfect artwork for it, by the way. Window falling out, construct with her strings pulling and manipulating everybody. This card's busted. It's insane. It can be like whatever you need it to be, like a basic poly, miracle fusion, half a SHADDOLL fusion. It gives protection, and then on top of that, if it's sent to the grave by a card effect, it literally is just like a Rhoda. Like you search any SHADDOLL spell or trap, which is really, really nifty. So this is a primary construct target, a primary Squamata target, and a primary core target. Especially when you consider how SHADDOLLs are actually able to break boards going second. They chew through monster negations and really can shine even against Omni negations, because cards that negate the activation, like you can negate the activation of SHADDOLL fusion and like literally construct dump Resh and like get a SHADDOLL fusion again. The other thing about this card is that if this card's sent to the grave, so like if you pop this or anything like that, if this card's just sent to the grave by a card effect, it can literally replace itself with like another Resh SHADDOLL fusion. It doesn't have a restriction on what it can and cannot search. You can add another Resh SHADDOLL fusion. There's one thing that I think I mixed in the card text, which was to specify that you can only use each effect of Resh SHADDOLL fusion once per turn. I don't want this card to be able to fusion summon more than once. So I think we should go back and change this. I fully intended it for it to be you can only use each effect, because all the other SHADDOLL fusion spell cards all have that same restriction. So this card should not be able to be a better card in the terms of card design. It shouldn't have better card design and no restriction. That would just make it like not even comparable. Like no other SHADDOLL fusion card would be comparable to this. So there's that. So Resh is really good. It's broken. Then we have El SHADDOLL Shadowgrounds. This is similar to the Cursed Prison. I redesigned. I had kept Cursed Prison in mind when designing this card. I wanted to give SHADDOLL an actual field spell that actually is good. So when this card is activated, this is so Konami-like. That's why I like designing cards, keeping in mind the patterns that they follow, because it feels more realistic that you could see this. Because Konami's been doing a lot with card design, like making a card that's already the value's there. Like economically, the card is already going to replace itself. It already has an effect that's good enough to make it playable as a main deck staple. And then it's going to have a bonus effect that gives it recovery and help you to play in the long game. And then on top of that, it'll have a third effect that just doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be there. And that's what they've been doing a lot. I like to call a lot of cards like Poplars, because that, to me, has been the standard that they have to uphold. They can't really deviate from the trajectory of that card design. Now they are forcing themselves, it seems like, to make cards that have 3 to 4 effects when they were good enough with the first two. So El Shaddol Shadow Grounds says when this card is activated, you can add one Shaddol card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Really good first effect. It's just a Rhoda. Once per turn, if you would fusion summon, this gets good because the field spell lets you do this, but it's way harder to do. If you would fusion summon a Shaddol fusion monster, you can use one monster your opponent controls as a fusion material. When fusion summoning a Shaddol monster, you can send one of the fusion materials from your deck to your graveyard for that fusion summon. If this card's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Shadow Grounds once per turn. So essentially, in face value, this is going to be the best card in the deck because it adds any card you want to. It's a field spell, so it has no diminishing returns. In addition to that, it is essentially a super poly. Curse Grounds, if you guys know what Curse Grounds is, it's a field spell that's supposed to be for Shaddolls. It's super slow and it's hard to set up, but it essentially lets you use your opponent's monsters as fusion materials. That is and always should have been how Shaddolls have been able to play. Schism lets you send cards from the field to the grave. Shaddolls are like, the way the dynamic of the deck is like it is a control deck, and like it functions better when your opponent starts playing. That's when the deck gets better. And it's always been able to manipulate resources and manipulate what can and cannot resolve. And this card embodies already the kind of dynamic playstyle that the deck already has. And it should have always been able to use your opponent's monsters as materials because they're just too generic. It has every attribute, so you'll be able to fusion summon any Shaddol in any matchup because they have every Shaddol fusion for every attribute. So it's a super poly, it's a Rhoda. And when fusion summoning, you can also literally make it another half of the Shaddol fusion. So you can kind of see where resolving this card equates to Shaddol fusion. Yes, it still loses to Ash. It's still going to be weak to Ash. Every card loses to something. That's fine. Is it going to be a better Ash bait? It means, Shaddol fusion and this card. One or the other is going to be Ash and the other is going to be resolved going second. So it helps Shaddolls to actually be able to play through Ash, which was always a weakness that I struggle with in my Shaddol list, is like, I can play through everything sometimes, even Appaloosa and like Caesar, and just not play through Ash. It's really unfortunate because like negating the activation of my cards is what allows me to play through them, but like Ash doesn't negate the activation, just the effects. So like it doesn't matter how many times I add Shaddol Fusion back from my grave or deck to hand, I can't use it again. So this card being like a primary Ash bait while also like dynamically being good enough without its first effect resolving, to me is beautiful. Like this card reminds me of the Rika field spell, like where if it hits the field, your opponent's going to be forced to interact with it because if they don't, if you just activate a fusion spell, it's like GG no re. So card's really, really nice. Really, really nice. Let's get to next up. We got the spells. Okay, we got the monster. Now let's get to the fusion. So we have El Shaddol Apelio. This was the inspiration I took was from the Ritual Beast Apelio and Gaia Apelio. I thought about making a Shaddol variant of Gaia Apelio, Ulti Gaia Apelio specifically. It takes 2 Shaddol monsters to make, so you cannot really use your opponent's monsters or any generic monsters to make it. It says all Shaddol monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. That's a protection, continuous. Once per turn, quick effect. You can add 1 Shaddol card from your graveyard or banish zone to your hand. Then send 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard. The first effect is going to generate advantage and accumulate critical mass while also being able to play through disruptions. Why? Because if you activate a construct and it gets Veilered, you can chain a Paleo to add a Shaddol card and then send the Shaddol construct on resolution. So it's no longer on the field, so it can no longer be Veilered and it will fizzle. So that is one example of many of the applications that this card has as a utility-esque effect to play into a lot of game states and scenarios where like Shaddolls are losing a lot of those. They really are. And so Apelio helps a lot because this card paired with the fact that you have so much consistent access to El Shaddol Fusion means a lot more cards will be able to resolve, which is a really big deal because Shaddolls are not really in a good position when it comes to targeting effect negation. Shaddolls actually play better through monster negates and omni negates than they do through just like an imperm. It's harder for them to deal with like those kind of cards than it is for Appaloosa and omni negates, and that's because Shaddolls can chain block a lot. So I can chain block an Al Capone and chain block a Shaddol Genius, chain block like a dragon. And that's one of the best scenarios with like Meltdown, chain blocking a dragon can potentially snipe an Imperm. But it's always and forever going to be like the weakness that is an underlying factor. And it kind of, I guess, gives balance because the deck is already so good at breaking boards. But like, it's just so funny that you can lose to one Imperm but be able to play through like an Appaloosa. So this card helps immensely with that. But also just in face value, it is just a good card because it literally is a pseudo recovery. It adds a Shadoll card from your graveyard or banish zone to your hand, so that helps the playthrough shifter as well. Once per turn, if a Shadoll card or effect activates and resolves, you can send one card on the field to the graveyard. So that's the card. That's the effect that I forgot to like mention when I was talking about this card's ability to play through targeting effects. Is because if you activate like a construct and they try to imperm, you can chain a Paleo, add from grave or banish zone to hand, send one card from your hand or field to the graveyard. But also, the other benefit is this card will be able to send one card on the field to the graveyard if that resolves. So this can activate in a new chain and be able to protect you from another targeting effect, and it can also layer a lot of like chain blocking. So a Paleo is really strong when it resolves its first effect. It just allows you to chain block multiple effects in the new chain link, which is how you continually play through negations. So it already can dodge targeting effects with just the add and send, but then its other effect, which triggers on a new chain, if a Shadoll card or effect activates and resolves, send one card on the field to the grave. That's also a disruption. That's a non-targeting send. And a Paleo triggers itself. So you can a Paleo add and send one of your cards from the field to the grave, or hand to the grave, by the way. It's hand or field to the grave, and then just get a spot removal. So it's an interruption by itself that also plays through interruptions, which is really good. Lastly, if this card's sent to the graveyard, add one Shadoll card from your deck or graveyard to your hand, then discard one card. Very similar to Al Capone. So what does this card do? If I am just ending on a Paleo by itself, I can activate a Paleo, grab a Dragon, a Squamata, an Aerial, or anything that accesses one of those three cards, or a Genius. Squamata is always going to be in your grave because you're just going to always access it. So grabbing a Squamata and then discarding the Squamata, and then in a new chain triggering a Paleo and Squamata, a Paleo can send a card from the field to the grave. Squamata can then dump Genius, Aerial, or Dragon as another disruption. So it's always two forms of interaction. Where can like this card by itself have the highest ceiling is if you're loaded already. You can actually activate a Paleo, grab something, and then you can send something, of course, in a new chain, trigger its effect, send itself, and then you can trigger its other effect. If it's sent to your graveyard, add a Shadoll card from deck or graveyard to hand, then discard one card. So a Paleo can not only be a warrior returning alive, but it can be a reinforcement of the army by itself because it can send itself for its own effect. So I can activate a Paleo, add my Shadoll Fusion, whose activation got negated, and then I can pitch like a Paleo off of its first effect if I really wanted to, and then get a Paleo to add another card and then discard a card. So it's just phenomenal. It's really, really strong. And I'm going to show you some lines where the one card combo is going to put a Paleo under a gravity controller, and you're going to go a Paleo's first effect, add, and then send the gravity controller, and then trigger its effect again to send itself, and then get its other effect to add and then discard. So it by itself can like get the full value that you need to make an El Shaddol play on your opponent's turn or a Schism plus follow-up. Really, really strong card. The tricks that you can do with the Paleo are like what make it, to me, the best Shaddol fusion that you can actually make, because it has more utility than even Construct does. So it's really, really strong. It's just harder to use in Construct, and it has like so much nuance and the timing of when you can use it. Construct's just easier to use, and you get to your cards faster. But it can do more than Construct can do, which makes it almost better than Construct. But Construct fusion materials and requirements still make Construct, again, a go-to. So now what we have is a Skados. This card, I had the Nemesis cards in mind when I was designing this card. It is a level 10 Dark Dragon, 3000 attack and defense. Its effects are as follow. Its materials are one Shaddol monster plus 2 monsters with 1000 or more attack. that can make it a super poly target potentially, which is really strong. Quick effect, when you activate a SHADDOLL card or effect, you can return one SHADDOLL card from your field or graveyard to your hand. Cost. That's cost. So you bounce for cost. You can also bounce this card for costs, which is broken. Negate the effects of a face-up card on the field, and if you do, you can change one monster on the field to face-up attack or face-down defense position. You can only activate this effect of El SHADDOLL Escados once per turn. SHADDOLL monsters you control gain 100 attack and defense. Also, monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense for each SHADDOLL card in your graveyard. If this card's sent to your graveyard, add one SHADDOLL card from your graveyard to your hand. That's a mouthful. That's like a lot. That's a lot of card text. So the last effect I kept in mind that SHADDOLLs really struggle with getting over cards in general. Outside of Construct, they really don't have any firepower, and it's really hard to just get over. Like a 3,000 attack monster that can be targeted or destroyed, you should also have no way to out it outside of like Schism. And that's if the monster is the attribute of the monster that you summon. So SHADDOLLs have always struggled with that. So that's why I gave this card this effect, so that SHADDOLLs actually have firepower, because they really don't have any monsters that have higher attack than 2,800. So that's a big deal. So it is very similar to the Sword Soul level 10 Synchro in that aspect. Its graveyard effect is just like every other fusion monster, except instead of adding a SHADDOLL spell or trap, it can just add a SHADDOLL card from your graveyard to your hand. That means it can add back a monster or put a fusion back, so more recursion. The best effect is obviously when you activate a SHADDOLL card or effect, this chains directly to it, very similar to Lady, and also very similar to, like, if you're thinking of Pearly, it does chain directly to the SHADDOLL card. So if your opponent chains something to your SHADDOLL card, it can't chain, but you have so many opportunities to activate a SHADDOLL card or effect. It chains directly, and what it does is if you activate SHADDOLL card or effect, you can return one SHADDOLL card from your field or graveyard to your hand for cost, negate the effects of a face-up card on the field, and if you do, change one monster on the field to face up or face down. Face up attack position or face down defense position. Why does he have that effect? Because it makes no sense to me why SHADDOLLs are a flip effect deck and have only one way outside of Hound to even change battle positions, which is Resh. And Resh requires a big setup, and you have to be able to play. And it's like when you're using Resh, if you don't play 2, you can't even use Resh on your opponent's turn if you're burning through it in your main combo. So like you essentially don't get the cool tricks of being able to like trigger Windy and summon like a SHADDOLL Dragon or a Squamata and flip it to pop like a monster or bounce a card. And SHADDOLLs are literally, like, in my opinion, supposed to be able to flip their face down monsters face up the same turn that they're summoned. That's how I feel. So yes, this card can negate a face up card on the field, and that's kind of bonkers, kind of not really. It's very similar to Al Capone, so it's not anything new necessarily that it's offering to the deck. It doesn't target, which is beautiful, because SHADDOLLs struggle with targeting like cards that can be targeted in the first place. But where it shines is the change one monster to face up attack or face down defense. That can reset a beast, and the beast can be flipped up again to get more draw power. Reset a hedgehog for follow up. There's 1,000 applications for this card. It can also flip a face down that you just summoned off Windy or Falco to be able to disrupt your opponent more and play through Dark Ruler and Droplets, because you can summon this card out via L or also Schism. So this deck just doesn't lose to board breakers, which is really nice. You can also, if you're getting even lead, activate L or Resh or Schism or any SHADDOLL card or effect and chain this guy to it to negate the even lead. And also, you can return his self for cost when you activate his effect. So even he can dodge an Imperm Droplet, like a Dark Ruler. It's a really strong card. He can put himself back for cost, and then you will resolve the negation. He's no longer on the field to be interacted with. You can summon him back out later if you need to, but he's going to do his job of negating a card and then resetting one of your... A lot of the times, you're going to use his Book of Moon or Book of Taiyu effect on your own monsters, because it's almost always going to be better. However, we cannot overlook the fact that he can be an Omni Negate and a Book of Moon in one, which is really strong. I can negate one of my opponent's cards and then flip their Snake Eye Ash face down or their Flambridge face down. So oppressively strong if you're using it that way. But I think I would always use it from the economic value that I can abuse my resources and I get recursion. Every time I activate this card's effect, it's really strong. I can literally add back any spell or trap for cost to like negate something, and then reset a Falco line. So card is really, really, really strong. I would say this is the boss monster. Honestly, this card and a Paleo change how like the dynamic of Shaddolls, their playability. They change how Shaddolls are able to navigate through interruptions. These cards change everything, I think. They're really, really powerful. You're able to play through more interruptions than you normally can, and they just make it so hard to interact with this deck. So yeah, that's the full coverage. Now I'm going to show you guys my deck list, just like I do all the time whenever I do these kind of videos. This is the new Shaddol Goo. I'm still on invoked cards because I still see the value in Meltdown, and the fact that Meltdown's an Ash magnet and that Alistair is an Imperm Veiler magnet, while also Meltdown being Ash still provides me the protection. It's just too good to pass up on Meltdown. I think the Invoke cards wouldn't be worth it if it wasn't for Meltdown and Kaliga and Mechaba access, because Winda Kaliga is just like a super strong lock, and you get this really consistently. So I think it's really powerful. So we're on 3 Shadow Grounds, 3 Meltdown, 3 Alistair. We have 3 Shaddol Fusion. It's still the goated card. Like, this card's still goated. It's still going second is the best card in your deck. We have 3 Red Shaddol Fusion going first. This is the superior like one card enabler. Like, this card is phenomenal. We also have 3 El Shaddol, which still to this day, in the terms of diversity and like how you're able to play through disruptions, I always think El Shaddol Fusion is. It feels like I say a lot of the times like this is the best, but my favorite card is actually El Shaddol Fusion. It's the card that got hit to 1 for good reason. It plays through D-Barrier, and it plays through Anti-Spell, it plays through TC Boo, it plays through Skill Drain, it plays through Rivalry. The card plays through every targeting hand trap in the game. It's just a quick play. That's all it does, and that's all it needs to be. It's broken. It dodges everything. It plays through hand traps on Alistair. It's really strong. And then we have double Invocation. Then this seems crazy, but we're on a lot of Shaddol monsters. 3 Squamata, 3 Core, 3 Windy, 2 Hedgehog, 1 Beast. These are the better ones for value. You want your cards to replace themselves so you can keep fusing off. Because every time you fusion summon, you force interactions, and that's how you break boards. It's literally just by activating fusion spells. So 1 Beast, 1 Falco. Every Shaddol list has to have Falco, in my opinion. The recovery that he provides and also the insulation he provides is just too strong. I even think about playing Synchros because of him. 1 Dragon, 1 Aerial, and 1 Genius. These cards are bricks as fusion materials, but these cards enable you to diversify your interactions, and they allow you to actually have like really strong interruptions under like cards like Dark Ruler, Droplets, and because they come at a different point of interaction. And when you have Squamata, your opponent never really knows which one you're going to use. And that's where the utility and the toolbox of Shaddolls that I talk about comes from. That it can really pivot whatever direction you need it to based on the situation you're in. If you're playing against like Stun, then honestly, Dragon, being able to re-loop, infinite loop Dragon is like your best friend. If you're playing against Combo, Aerial and Genius are better because Aerial cuts off follow-up. Every combo deck is probably going to have follow-up in their grave. And Genius, through chain blocking, disrupts. Like, a Shaddol Fusion can, if you activate Meltdown and you have Shaddol Fusion, you can literally out, like, a Varudris and an Apollousa at the same time. Like, or you can out Phantom and Varudris and just attack over the Apollousa. Or you can, like, if they have Nightmare Pain, you just negate Nightmare Pain. And the Genius can hit the Varudris. And because Nightmare Pain's negated, you can attack over the Apollousa, and just all that's left is Phantom. So this deck's actually really broken when it gets to play. We have 1 Resh. You need it for a lot of lines. We have 1 Schism, 1 Nef Core. I think this card's kind of crazy. Schism's still the best trap to end on, but these two paired together get you a snowball like no other. The 1 Optimus Prime for the 2 other field spells that you play, and then 2 Talents and 1 Call By. These are literally just, most of the time, going to be checking for Ash, because Ash is still the best hand trap against this deck. You have a lot of ways to deal with targeting effects, but Ash is the only hand trap, to me, that can literally stop you from playing when you have a hand that can beat, like, Veiler, Imperm, Nib. So, yeah, really important here. The extra deck, I'm playing 1 of each of the new fusions. 1 of Scottos, 1 of Paleo, and then double Aquapone, double Construct, double Winda. I was very tempted because the field spell allows you to like make a lot of different other fusions. I was tempted to test out other ones, like especially Shikinaga, but I'm on 1 Mechaba, 1 Kaliga, 1 Aguadis, extra deck space is crippling, 1 Moon Maiden, 1 Gravity Controller, 1 Cross Shape. You have to play all of these, and you need a generic link to a lot of the times because your lines just require it. And SP doesn't provide zones, but it's the best link that I could use in a pinch. I thought about Selene access code, but the extra deck space is just too tight, and you have a new way to run stuff over with the SHADDOLLs. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get into some combos. So I'm going to go to dual room, and then I'm going to get into solo mode, and I'm going to show you guys what this deck can do. Do I need to like refresh? Okay, solo mode, host duel, boom. DB be tripping sometimes, bro, so I might have to refresh, but let's see. Oh, nice. That's already combo. That's clean. That's clean. All right, so I'll show you guys what one field spell does by itself. All right. Field spell plus core is nice, though. For real, bro. All right, so let me do this. Field spell is the only 1-card combo in the deck. SHADDOLL Fusion is a 1.5 card combo because you need any other SHADDOLL card that you can control. So basically any normal summon, because any other SHADDOLL card that you can control would be like the field spell. So let's activate field spell. Let's just directly like activate it. I meant to click activate. All right, so let's activate field spell. Use this effect on activation to grab Resh. And this is a broken card going second because you can literally just like out your opponent's board with it. So it's really nice. It's like Rika Concon. Add Resh to hand. Is this a 1-card combo that's like Genius Loki or Snake Eye Ash or 1 Engraver? No, but for SHADDOLLs, this is mileage. This is as good as it gets for SHADDOLLs. They don't have like branded fusion like shenanigans, like how branded fusion can literally like puppet lock you, but it's pretty good for a SHADDOLL deck, if I do say so myself. You add Resh. You're going to activate Resh. Bro! Alright, I was about to say, bro, DV be tripping. So, because you have a SHADDOLL card, you get to send 1 material from deck off Resh. And because you have grounds up and you're fusion summoning, you can send a material from deck. So, you can send both of your materials from deck. So, what we're going to do is we're going to dump our Windy. And we're going to dump core. And we're going to... Jesus. I just need a refresh, bro. I can just feel it. DB tripping. DB tripping, bro. Let me just refresh real quick. Hold up. Let me cook. Hold up. Yeah, I got to do the digital... Bro, I got to do the digital dash on this one, bro. Like this... Nah. There ain't no way. Y'all ain't going to do me like this right now. Alright, so we got it. Let's see. Skip the intro. Alright, cool. We back. It's gonna work now. Alright, so we dump Windy and we dump core. Every time for this combo, you always dump Windy and core. No matter what. If you're playing against a hand trap heavy deck and this resolves, sometimes it's better to dump Squamata and core, because if your construct gets interrupted, then you can actually use Squamata to dump something like what construct would have dumped. But specifically in this line, when Resh resolves, that means you're safe from Ash, and Construct is being summoned through the Resh, can't be targeted. So this is actually a really clean 1-card combo. So we're going to get every effect. We're going to chain block and do everything, bro. This is disgusting. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to Foolish SHADDOLL Fusion. So we're going to dump that to grave off of the core. Construct is going to dump the Resh, and Windy is going to summon the Aerial. Face down, and then the core is going to add SHADDOLL Fusion. I mean, not the core. You dump another SHADDOLL Fusion, and Resh is going to add L. What we're going to do next is we're going to link that girl off into a Gravity Controller, trigger her effect to add a Resh from graveyard to hand. Then we're going to activate the Resh, banish it, and the Construct. Flip our boy. Oh, he's supposed to be in defense. Trigger his effect to bring back the Construct. Right? And then we're going to activate the Construct here. This is also nice because this can get hit by impermanence. The Construct couldn't, but you have the L to dodge. And I preferably would rather summon something that's not Winda, but you could still summon Winda and you can keep playing, because you can link the Winda off because you are essentially no, I'm lying. You're gonna be stuck on the window plus the construct, but you are gonna be able to get the dump off construct to get the trap to dump a monster, so you have an L line. So through imperm, you can still end on window plus your choice of whatever SHADDOLL fusion you want to make, which is really clean. But we're gonna activate construct here. Construct is gonna go ahead and dump a, where's the trap at? You're gonna send Neff to grave and then use Neff's effect to add a copy of Squamata. And then you're going to activate SHADDOLL fusion, and you're going to dump Aerial. I'm sorry, not Aerial. You're going to special summon back the Aerial. You're going to send Construct and Squamata. And then you're going to summon a Paleo here. And then Construct, Squamata are going to activate. Construct is going to go ahead and add the SHADDOLL fusion from graveyard to hand. And then Squamata is going to grab you. I'm trying to remember. I believe it should be Schism. Yeah, grab Schism from grave. It's just going to dump it. So dump Schism to grave right here. And then you're going to activate the Apelio. You're actually going to add Resh from Banish Zone to hand, because it adds from grave or Banish Zone to hand, and that's how you loop your one Resh. So you're going to go Apelio at that, and then send one card from your hand or field to the graveyard. You're just going to actually send its actual self to grave right here. Wait, I'm trying to remember the line. I think it's send Gravity Controller. Trigger her effect. No. It's not. You activate Apelio, grab that, send her, and then trigger Apelio's effect to add from deck or graveyard to hand, and then discard one. So we're going to add this from deck or graveyard to hand. And then we're going to discard a random, or we can, to keep it a self-contained one-card combo, you could just discard Resh to graveyard, because it's not going to do anything right now. It can be follow-up, but all we need is what we have, which is the Ink Resh. So, like, that's what I was saying about SHADDOLL. It's like, even though this is a one-card combo, look at your inboard. It's Gravity Controller and Aerial. You know, like, that's really not that impressive. And to be honest, you can leave the Apelio up, but the thing is, you're just going to get it back off of the Resh anyways. So we're going to put this in Speller Trap Zone just to show you guys what we have here. So what you have is Schism, Resh, and L. This is the best 3-card combination you can have on your inboard for SHADDOLLs, and it does everything. This is better than, like, Apollousa, Varudris. This is better than literally, like, IP Masquerade into SP with Apollousa and Snake Eye follow-up. This can, in turns, this is an FTK, and you can Resh into Construct to get a Foolish, or even better, you can Resh into an Apelio. Like, and you can do this preemptively anytime you want. You can do, like, on your opponent's draw phase, you could start playing through interactions, and this card is going to be able to do what it does, which on your opponent's turn, you can, like, grab follow-up, you can grab the trap, you can add anything you want to your hand off of its base effect, which is still a quick effect, and then send something, and you can also send the Aerial off of this card's effect, and then triple DD Crowed him. So that's really, really dope, but also, when you send that, you're going to trigger Apelio's other effect, so you're going to triple DD Crow them and send a non-targeting, send a card from the field to the graveyard. So this is 2 interactions right here. This is 2 disruptions off of just the Resh. And you have follow-up because you're adding the Resh SHADDOLL fusion. Next, you have Schism into Winda. You also can SHADDOLL fusion into Winda, which is really nice. Or if you wanted to diversify your options off SHADDOLL fusion, instead of adding Resh SHADDOLL fusion from graveyard to hand, you add the Squamata, and now the toolbox is turned on. Because you can summon Al Capone using Apelio and Squamata, get Squamata's effect, Apelio's effect, and Al Capone's effect. And you can non-targeting negate, you can send a dragon or a genius, negate another card, get Apelio to add from deck or graveyard to hand, and then discard. So what the SHADDOLL fusion can do is literally do this. And this is what makes it, like, Winda is, you don't even need Winda. You can literally do all this without Winda. Summon Al Capone, non-targeting negate a card, trigger the Squamata, trigger the Apelio, and what can happen here is Squamata can dump the dragon, right? and then a Paleo can add and dump the Genius. So then you get a pop, a negate, so you get 3 more interruptions off the Al Capone. So you got 2 off of a Paleo, 3 more off of the Al Capone interaction. You still have Schism to fusion summon and send, and your Schism will actually be able to bust out a SHADDOLL. So like this is where you're not even winning with Winda. Like you can actually Schism and banish the materials from grave, so you can banish a SHADDOLL plus 2 monsters with 1,000 or more attack, which is really easy to do. You can even banish the gravity controller from field. And you can summon out a SHADDOLL, and a SHADDOLL is pretty gnarly, what he does. So this is an Omni Negate and a Book of Moon, plus follow-up. So you guys can see, like, with the new support, you can actually interact with your opponent. You're not just, like, puppet locking like with Branded. Like, you're not just putting up Winda and just winning. But, of course, Winda just saves time, but it's nice to know that you have an alternate win condition. Outside of Winda, SHADDOLL's never had a win condition. So this card is insane. This is the showcase, and this is 2 more layered disruptions, so that is a total of 9 points of interaction that can disrupt your opponent's combos. So this is stifling. This is obviously simplifying the game state, and it's really hard to droplet this, and this is not Dark Ruler-able at all. You can droplet the first summon off the Resh, but then you got to do it the L play, and you got to do it the Schism play. It's really nice, and you're sending a Dark, which Dark's the most popular attribute since forever. So when you Schism, that's another interruption. So that's like 10 interruptions. That's really, really strong. That's like the streamlined 1-card combo. It gets better the more cards you add, just the more you add to your inboard. So like ideally, like yeah, like Resh SHADDOLL Fusion and Alistair is like a pretty strong 1-card combo. I mean a pretty strong 2-card combo. If you have like a way to get a SHADDOLL card. So I would say that Alistair and the Fusion and the Field Spell are like busted because you get a Mechaba, so you get an Omni Negate on top of everything that you're doing, which is really nice. This hand's actually gas. This is gonna play through like you can normal Alistair if it gets impermed. You can chain L, make a construct right there. The Alistair resolves, you get an invocation. Constructs in a new chain is gonna do what it do. That can get hand trapped as well. That can get ashed, to be honest. But you are gonna chain block with Resh. So I know that this hand can be Ash and Imperm, and this deck never loses to Nib, and it doesn't care about Droll. And it cares a little bit about Shifter, but now with a Paleo, the deck can actually play through Shifter. It can play under Shifter as well. So that's really dope, that you can actually get better recovery through Shifter. So yeah, that's the 1-card combo. I do want to make a totally separate combo tutorial, because I just realized we're 47 minutes in. But I hope you guys can kind of understand and see what the deck can do now. Outside of the 1-card combo, you have Resh plus any normal summonable SHADDOLL. That's the same exact thing basically. Specifically if you normal Resh, normal Windy, or normal Squamata, that's 9 different SHADDOLL monsters that are all, you can draw those, plus access to the Resh. That's the 2-card combo that gets you the same inboard that I just showed you. The Field Spell just turns into a 1-card combo. Everything outside of that is normal SHADDOLL stuff. It's just everything else is like 3-card combos, 2-card combos. So these cards, like the Field Spell and Resh, are what make this deck able to do more with less. Outside of that, like if you're not drawing those cards, you're just playing SHADDOLLs how they traditionally were played, and you just have like a better toolbox in your extra deck than before. So I would say it's not broken, but it's definitely a huge step forward in comparison to what the deck was doing in the past. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you. Make good choices. Don't do drugs. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. Y'all have a beautiful day. Peace.